Hello, Bob. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Tracy from the Patient Services Department here at Arrhythmia Alliance and AF Association. We just want to introduce you, Bob, today and thank you for your time joining us. You are a well-known fundraiser and supporter of the AF Association, and we're very grateful that you are happy to share your story with us on your journey through AF with us. Is that okay, Bob?
Yes, absolutely fine.
Well, I think I'll hand over to you, Bob, and we'll take it from there, okay?
I think Paul McCartney wrote a song about my AF journey, A Long and Winding Road, but it started probably in the mid-80s when I suddenly started finding that if I had anything with alcohol in it, I would get breathless and my heart would race. My GP at the time, wise comment was, think of the money you'll save, don't drink. And then 10 years later, in the mid-90s, I'd moved house, different doctor. And I went and complained about this sort of bubbly feeling, and my GP at that time decided I had something wrong with my stomach. So we waited another 10 years until I moved a third time, and my new GP, bless her, her mother had AF, and she immediately knew what it was. So I went very quickly, I think within a fortnight, to the rapid access heart clinic at the local hospital, and they did various tests and said, oh yes, we know what's wrong, you've got atrial fibrillation. Excuse me, what's that? And they told me all about it. And eventually they referred me to the main cardiac hospital in Devon, which is the Royal Devon and Exeter. And I saw the consultant there who told me about this thing called ablation. I didn't like the sound of that very much, so I said, no, it's no problem, I'll carry on. And he said, well, when it gets worse, and it will, come back and see me. So 6 months later, I was banging on his door begging, at which point he referred me to London, to the Royal Brompton Hospital, to see a doctor called Jonathan Clegg, who's an electrophysiologist there. And I saw him in the autumn of 2005. He said, yes, I think we can do something for you. We'll give you an ablation. And I had that, the first one, in round about Easter time, 2006, which didn't actually do what it was supposed to do. It actually made things slightly worse. So he repeated it again in 2007, which was fine for about 6 or 8 months, and then it started to creep back. And he did another ablation in 2008, which stopped my AF completely. And for the next 10 or 12 years, I had no problems with arrhythmias at all. Unfortunately, I then started to develop atrial tachycardia paroxysmally, and each time that happened, I had to go into hospital for direct current cardioversion, or DCCV, which put me back into rhythm until February 2017, when things went horribly wrong, and in a sort of several million to one chance, they managed to stop my heart. It's a condition called pulseless electrical activity, which is in the textbooks, but nobody ever sees. And the electrics of the heart were working fine, so the ECG said I was pretty happy and everything was going wrong, except that my heart muscle wasn't responding, so I had no output. That caused a certain amount of consternation in the department at the time, and a very fit young doctor spent quite a bit of time cracking a few ribs and doing CPR, which brought me back, fortunately for everybody. Subsequently, I had various tests because they thought there was something else wrong with my heart, which all came back perfectly healthy. So fast forward then to last August, and I went back to the Royal Brompton to see Dr. Clegg to have an ablation for atrial tachycardia, because we didn't want to do any more DCCVs in case they killed me again. Unfortunately, that seems to have introduced a different arrhythmia, and I'm struggling a little bit with various problems. I either get a heart rate which is above desirable, somewhere in the sort of high 90s, low 110s, or it goes the other way and I start getting pre-syncope and feeling as though I'm going to fall flat on my back or face because my blood pressure drops and so on and so forth. I'm currently waiting for a 72-hour monitor to be sent down from Brompton so that they can actually see what's going on. But I'm happy and reasonably capable of carrying on life so long as I make sure that I don't drive when I'm feeling dizzy. So that basically is a 5-minute tour through my my long and winding road of arrhythmia.
Thank you, Bob. That's very interesting. You've actually received 3 ablations, is that correct?
I've had 4 ablations, 3 for atrial fibrillation and 1 for atrial tachycardia.
Right, okay, so you've got 4 in total. So would you say these procedures are a simple, straightforward thing? Is it, you know, do you go in for the day? Do you sort of have to stay overnight? Would you say they're quite invasive? Just for the benefit of other people, really, that may watch your video.
Well, I've always said that I'd rather have an ablation than root canal treatment.
That's a very interesting analogy, actually.
Yeah, having said which, my last one was a bit problematic because I went back into something horrible in recovery, and they pumped me full of flecainide, which then caused other problems. And for a while, they kept me in for, I think, 3 days. No, it worked out at 4 in the end because of the weekend. Because they thought that I might need to have a pacemaker, but it was the amount of flecainide that I'd had IV in recovery to try and bring my heart back under control that was causing the conductivity problems. So I came home, but the others I was home the next day. Considering that I lived I live in Devon and I was having treatment in London, provided my wife could drive up and collect me, we never had a problem.
Yes, because obviously we get a lot of questions from people that have not long had a diagnosis or that they've been offered an ablation, and a lot of them are not sure what to do. So it's quite interesting to hear from you the fact that you've had 4 now. So that would sort of send out quite a message to people that it is safe, and it's not a huge, massive thing to do. So that's quite interesting to know. You say you're currently waiting at the moment for a heart monitor. So once they've taken all the results from that, what do you think will be the next step? Did they explain anything to you?
It may be another ablation, or it may be a pacemaker, or pace and ablate. I have really no idea. I'll be guided by Dr. Plague.
Okay, wonderful.
Just to come back on ablation, it is important to remember that it's just another form of treatment for AF. You know, people tend to think in terms of cure, but after the number of years I've been involved with AF, I don't think about cure, I think about quality of life.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's what you want, really, more than anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you say at the moment you're suffering, well, you're kind of getting episodes where you're experiencing a high heart rate, but then also it drops very quickly as well. Do you know any of your triggers to bring that on at all?
Triggers, looking for triggers in my view is the way to madness. You have to accept the fact that you have an arrhythmia. It will happen. If you're lucky enough to discover something, and for some people it's alcohol, and we always say lifestyle correction is as important as any treatment. But always be, you know, if you've got somebody that's grossly overweight or morbidly obese, they're going to struggle far more than somebody who isn't. But there'll always be racing snakes with AF who have no problems with lifestyle. So it really is a difficult one.
Yeah. So yeah, so regular exercise, maintaining a healthy weight, and eating a good balanced diet is really secret as well, isn't it?
Well, it is. I think there's more and more research is showing that less processed food, a more plant-based diet. I mean, my wife is vegetarian anyway, but I do like meat. But I try not to have meat every day. I maybe have meat 3 times a week or 4 times a week. Since my wife stopped working, we have mainly home-prepared meals. There's very little bought-in stuff. It hasn't affected my arrhythmia, but I feel much better as a person for that kind of diet, and I would commend it to anybody. A healthy BMI, preferably less than 26, is desirable.
Okay. Okay, so because we always recommend that people try and find their triggers and keep a little diary of when they have episodes to see if they can link it so they know to avoid things in the future. Was that something that you were advised on at all?
As I said, my EP said looking for triggers was the way to madness. And the trouble is, every time you think you found a trigger, something else will come along and bite you. If your AF is vaguely mediated, then you may well find that small meals not too late in the evening will improve your quality of life. But as I say, there will always be people who lead an exemplary lifestyle who still have AF, and they have no. I mean, people who don't drink alcohol, who don't drink coffee or things like that. Everybody's still alcohol, caffeine. Oh, they're the triggers. But there are loads of people who don't have any of those stimuli who still have AF. So
Yes.
if you're lucky enough to find what affects you, fine. But I stopped trying.
Okay. Would you have any advice to offer anybody?
AF may be in your life, but don't let it be all of your life.
That's very good advice, actually, Bob. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Because I think you've done a very good analogy of everything. You've covered all sorts of information for us. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think it's just important that we all do whatever we can. I joined the AF Association when it was first formed, or soon after it was first formed in 2007, and I've been involved ever since. And I think if you find help in any organisation, then you need to support that organisation.
Great, and you do. You have supported us a huge amount. I'm new to the charity, as you well know, but I know that you've got a great reputation, and that's one of the reasons that we chose you to share your story today. So I'm very grateful for that, because you've given me a lot of things to think about too. So it's been very beneficial for me as well as to all our patients.
It's been a pleasure, Tracy. It really has. And if Trudy's watching, I send her my love. She's been a great friend to me over the years as well.
Great. Thank you, Bob.